What's up, everybody? It's Jared with Capture the Magic. And unless you have been out of the news loop for the last couple of weeks, you're probably aware that Cracker Barrel made quite the stir out there as they decided to ditch their old logo and go to some sort of simplified logo that was supposed to be better, that they paid hundreds of millions of dollars for. And then their audience rejected it. And then they came out and said, "We hear you, and we're going to go back to the old logo." Although that does not solve all the ills of Cracker Barrel, as they have many, many problems. And I can attest to that, having been going to Cracker Barrel probably most of my life. They have a lot of problems other than just their branding over the last few years. But at Destination D23, it seems Disney took a little bit of a jab at Cracker Barrel in their rebrand and presented a modified D23 logo at a presentation, which is, it's funny. I actually like when companies jab at each other. This is one reason I like Universal Studios' Twitter account, because many times it takes subtle jabs, especially when you're talking about at Disney and places like that. And personally speaking, I think Universal Orlando had a better sort of troll at Cracker Barrel, considering just mocking how bad that logo is and said barrels of fun. I don't know. I find both kind of humorous, but I do think Universal is a snarkier type of social media account out there, which I do appreciate. And on its face, Disney making fun of this, you're like, oh, haha, it's kind of funny. Except for the fact that I would argue Disney is probably the last company that should be making fun of what Cracker Barrel did, considering that's exactly what Disney's been doing in terms of changing what their brand has been known about, changing their content, changing their theme parks, most of which have been met with criticism, longtime fans not enjoying it, saying, hey, what are you doing here? Get this back to how it used to be. And at no point in time have you heard Disney come out and ever say, we're sorry, we messed up, we'll get it back to how it was, or we'll make it up to you. Now, Disney will kind of admit fault to things at times. They'll never actually come out and say they messed up or that, hey, we're sorry, but they'll essentially kind of beat around the bush and say, hey, you know what, we're going to increase the value of a Disney vacation, or we're going to right the ship on content. It's not about quantity, it's about quality of content. And then you're like, okay, well, you're admitting that you guys were making bad content, and they'll say, no, we make great content, but we're going to change our content.
You just don't get it, do you? You don't.
They just move on and never admit fault. You've had the feedback on Star Wars going on for over a decade, and Star Wars is still going exactly the same direction it's gone. Kathleen Kennedy is not fired, nor will she be fired. That woman will retire whenever she wants to, and when she retires, she will have awards and statues, and buildings will be named after her, and they will celebrate her as if she was this great success running Lucasfilm, having ruined Star Wars, Indiana Jones, Willow, name a brand that Lucasfilm operated and controlled, and Kathleen Kennedy has been behind the seemingly fall of those. Then you have Marvel, who was on top of the movie world, and then after that, they have seemingly been on a mission to tank that franchise, and now you've seen basically superhero movies are coming to the end of their run, I do believe, and we have Avengers Doomsday coming up, which will probably do pretty well, but ultimately, it's hard to argue that Marvel has not fallen off as well. And then you have things going on in the theme parks. There's been tons of changes when it comes to the Disney parks that have not been met by people being excited about these things. And if anything, Disney, I think, should look at Cracker Barrel potentially as a roadmap of what they could do. What does it look like when a major corporation comes out and says, hey, we messed up, we're sorry, and we're going to try and earn your trust back? I've been saying for a long time, I actually think that could end up being something that is beneficial to companies to do that. It would earn trust. You would potentially, hey, they heard our feedback and they're going to make changes. But Disney many times just takes the other approach where they just get really combative with their audience. When Star Wars is doing all the things they were doing that turned away that fan base, instead of hearing that feedback from decade-long fans of Star Wars, they thought the best path of action was to attack that fan base and tell them that they are everything under the sun if they don't like the movies and shows that are being made. Personally, I think that's a bad idea and continues to be a bad idea. And I think you've seen that play out with now Star Wars. Seemingly nobody really cares. But as somebody who used to love the Star Wars movies, I can't find myself to care about what Star Wars is doing, because half the time when Star Wars announces something, it doesn't happen anyways. I have heard, to be fair, Andor seasons 1 and 2 were very good. I haven't seen them myself because I don't care. But outside of those, most of the things Star Wars has done has not been met with people, for the most part, being like, wow, this was a great Star Wars film. This was a great Star Wars show, story, whatever it was. It's usually met with some criticism for very valid reasons, in my opinion. So you've seen one company go one way, another company go another way in terms of how to deal with criticism. And Disney being much bigger than Cracker Barrel, I think that's one reason why Disney hasn't apologized, is because they are much bigger and can probably withstand it because they've had decades and decades of goodwill and brand recognition built up globally. Cracker Barrel does not have that sort of brand recognition. They have much more of a niche audience, as you could say. But I am curious to see how this works out for Cracker Barrel. And if it does work out for the positive for them, you could see other companies end up seeing that and say, hey, maybe we should admit fault when we're at fault.
What did you say?
I know that's crazy, but I mean, it could go a long ways. If you had a friend or someone you knew that never admitted fault and always blamed other people, I think you would find those people kind of unbearable to be around. You'd probably be like, you know what? I don't really want to associate with Rick because every time Rick does something I don't like, and I'm like, hey man, don't smoke in the bathroom. I'm in here. He goes on to some spiel about how I'm a terrible person because I'm criticizing him smoking in the bathroom. Disney's kind of like that a little bit. They kind of, everything they do, if you criticize them at all, they kind of get real defensive about it, and just, it's not a great look. Especially considering, you know, Disney just had, there was an article I ran by the Variety talking about Disney has a boy problem in the fact that they don't have any content or movies that appeals to young men after spending a combined $8 billion to buy Marvel and Star Wars, to then try and turn those essentially into girl brands, and then now being at a point now where they're trying to find content for young boys.
This is terrible. Terrible.
When they had it, if they wouldn't have messed with it. I just think the irony is just a little too much for me here. So is this video a lot to do about really just a light little joke at a D23 convention? Yeah, it is. Completely. I will fully admit that. But I'm one of these people that kind of looks at trends, and overall, I think Disney is just rather tone deaf, and I think it's kind of another example of them being a little tone deaf in this situation, not reading the room, not understanding how their actions have been perceived by a lot of people. So I don't think Disney should be throwing stones at other glass houses whenever they have a glass castle on a hilltop, seemingly in this scenario here. Now, to be fair to them, they didn't put this out on Twitter. It was just something they showed at the convention. I'm sure it was a lighthearted joke, probably went over pretty well in the room. I think as a company, though, until, say Kathleen Kennedy is, fired for poor performance, I don't think they should be commenting on boneheaded moves by other corporations that seemingly went against their fan base that did not go over very well, and then were forced to make some changes because they were like, oh no, this is going to be the end of our company if we continue down this path. Not saying that this is going to happen to Disney. Cracker Barrel is much smaller than Disney. Disney is not going to go out of business. And probably they should maybe be watching the Cracker Barrel situation with kind of a little bit of attention to see how do people react to a company that apologizes and tries to make it right with their fan base. Could be a new trend. We'll see how it works out for Cracker Barrel. But either way, Destination D23 is going on. I'm sure there will be some announcements come out involving theme parks on some level. They've already made a couple, and whenever we have all those made, I will make another video talking about some of the things coming out of Destination D23. But I just kind of wanted to rant on this just because I just couldn't help and see the irony in this. And a little surprised that Disney, of any company that was going to do this to make fun of Cracker Barrel, would be the Disney company. But either way, that's going to be it, though, for this video. If you like this video, please like it and subscribe to the channel as we do all this coverage here of Universal Studios, Epic Universe, Disney World, and pop culture. And let us know in the comments, what do you think about all this? And until next time, we will see you in the parks.